Hey guys, welcome back. This is our last chapter for the year and the semester. Yay for that. This is chapter 18, Organic Chemistry. A lot of the information that we're going to talk about is very relevant to you all, and so hopefully you'll understand this a lot better than some of the other chapters that we've covered. There are going to be some similarities to chapter 8, but I think that the naming part of it is a lot easier than in chapter 8, so hopefully we'll get through this together and they'll make a lot more sense to you guys. All right, so let's talk a little bit about organic chemistry. Organic chemistry is such a fascinating subject. They dedicate an entire class to this. I had to take organic chemistry as its own class way back when, but it's very, very interesting. It's very fascinating. Some of the labs that we do in organic chemistry are really cool. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to do any of those this year, but I'm going to try to see if I can find some online things and activities to kind of help with this chapter. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about organic chemistry. Well, what is organic chemistry? The easiest way to put it is that it is the study of compounds that contain carbon. At the beginning of the year, I mentioned that when we were talking in chapter 1, I believe it was, different branches of chemistry, and I kind of mentioned that compounds that contain carbon, that's organic chemistry, and that's basically what this is. Okay, we're going to kind of talk about how they function and the different ways that they behave. Now, carbon can actually bond to many different elements, but the main ones that we're going to talk about will be hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean that those are the only ones that you'll see me talk about in here, but those are the more common ones that I will show you and show the examples with. Okay, there are so many compounds that are made with these four elements in some form or fashion, some conjunction, and it's like I said, it's pretty fascinating because so many things that we come in contact with actually has organic compounds in them. All right. Now, when we hear the term organic, we automatically think, oh, it's natural, no pesticides. That's not the kind of organic that we're talking about. We're just talking about compounds that contain carbon in the main structure of it. Okay. 95% of the compounds that we are coming in contact with actually contains carbon. That doesn't mean that everything, like water, we know that there's no carbon there, but a lot of the things that we come in contact with actually contain carbon in the formula somehow, okay? Now, with a carbon atom, when we were talking about the Lewis structure for carbon, I said that carbon has 4 valence electrons. And because it has 4 valence electrons, I drew the structure a little bit differently for the Lewis dot structure anyway, than I did those other elements. I put the dots around it. And that's because it wants to have 4 bonds. Whether it's a single, a double, or a triple bond, it wants to have 4 bonds in order for it to be considered stable or happy. And so that's kind of the reason why I do the Lewis dot structure the way that I do, so that you'll know, okay, I need to bond in 4 different places. Okay, they form very strong bonds with other carbon atoms, and I'm going to show you that a little later on, and we're going to talk a little bit about the behavior of carbon-to-carbon bonding as well. Now, one of the elements that carbon tends to bond with readily is hydrogen, and when it does, it forms a non-polar bond, and that's because that's just the nature of it. The electronegativity, the value, it just kind of cancels out. It falls within that nonpolar range that we talked about in chapter 7, I believe it was. And this is just kind of what this is. It's just a nonpolar bond. When we were doing that lab where we had to form those compounds, you saw that anything that had carbon and hydrogen would be a nonpolar bond, at least at that bonding point. And the other part of the molecule may not be polar, but you normally, when you're looking at carbon and hydrogen, because their electronegativity values are so close, they just kind of cancel each other out, or it's on the lower end, making them non-polar. Right. Now, a carbon atom can form many different structures. They can form a straight chain, they can form a branched chain, And I'm going to show you that in the next slide. And it could be from anywhere from 2 carbons that are forming this bond, anywhere all the way up to hundreds and hundreds of carbon. And again, I'm going to show you what that means. We're not going to look at those that are very large, but you should be able to understand how to do that. All right, we have rings or cyclic compounds. And basically what that means is that they're touching the carbon to carbon. It's touching and it's not going in a straight line. And I'm going to show you that. And again, it could have a double or a triple bond with at least with a straight chain. The rings can have double bonds in them, okay? And I'm going to show you that. So this is an example of a straight chain hydrocarbon or carbon bond. And you can see this carbon is going straight across. Pretty straightforward. The hydrogens are bonded to each carbon, and in some cases carbon is bonded to another carbon, but you'll notice if you were to count, there are 4 bonds around this carbon and this one and all the way down, okay? Now, hydrogen is not forming a bond between carbon and this carbon. It is forming a bond directly with carbon itself, hydrogen and carbon. And you have to remember, hydrogen will only do 1 bond. Carbon, however, will like to do the 4. Hydrogen can only do 1. Okay, so make sure when we're doing these structures that we keep that in mind. This would be considered a branched chain, all right? So it looks like a T or some kind of weird letter, I guess. But if you look at it, there's a parent chain or the long chain, and then something that kind of branches off of it, hence the name branch chains. All right, so a group, functional group, or whatever it may be, will come off of the main part of the hydrocarbon that we're looking at. This is an aromatic compound or a cyclic compound, but this is what I was talking about. This carbon is bonded to the carbon and to another carbon, and it looks like it's a circle. Now, in an aromatic compound, you can have 5 or on up, but typically you're not going to have less than 5, typically speaking, for an aromatic compound. With a cyclic compound, the smallest cyclic compound that you can see would be 3. So you would have 3 carbons in a cyclic manner, kind of looking like a triangle, and then you would have hydrogens or something coming off of those carbons in that particular case. Okay, and then we have another way to represent those chains. This is a straight chain, and this would be like a branch, all right? So what this is saying, when you see something like this, every point on this particular line represents a carbon. So this is actually the same representation of this compound here. And so I know that even though that it's not showing that hydrogens there, I know it's understood that there must be 3 hydrogens that are bonded at this point. So this would be your 1, 2, 3, and 4th carbon here, okay? Now, if it's something other than hydrogen, you must indicate that, all right? It must be indicated. Same thing here. We have 1, 2, 3, and then 4 carbon here. So that's just saying that 1, 2, 3 carbons, and then this is branching off of that second carbon there. All right. In this particular example, same thing. We've got one that's branching off of this carbon, but that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this carbon is also branching off of there. And like I said, unless it says otherwise, it's understood to be a carbon. All right. When we go in through the naming, I'll kind of circle back to this part to make sure that you guys understand this, okay? All right, this is our last slide of notes. Now, there are 2 different classifications of organic compounds. The first one will be an aliphatic compound. An aliphatic compound can be a straight chain, kind of like the ones that I showed you, or even with the branches. It could be a ring or a cyclic compound. Now, one of the things that you have to remember, that chain can have a single bond, it can have a double bond, or even a triple bond. The rings typically can have single bond or a double bond, but not as many as the second type of organic compound, which is an aromatic compound. With an aromatic compound, the main difference is that all the compounds are going to be cyclic. That's number one. You're not going to have a chain aromatic compound. Okay, that's one. Number two, the double and single bonds are going to alternate in that compound. So here are two examples, or a couple of examples. This first one here, it's a cyclic compound, but there are no double bonds in this one. Not that it couldn't have it, this one just doesn't have it. All right, so no double bonds in this one, and therefore this is a cyclic aliphatic compound. These next examples right here are also cyclic, but the thing that makes these different than this one is that they have an alternating single, double, and so on throughout the entire compound. So that's one of the big differences with an aromatic compound comparing it to an aliphatic compound. Now, aromatic compounds typically just the aroma, that's kind of where you're getting the smells from. A lot of the compounds that give off a fragrant scent, those are aromatic compounds, or due to aromatic compounds. Like I said, it's a really cool lab that I've tried to do in the past, and I was hoping that we're going to be able to do it this year. It gives off a nice fruity smell, but unfortunately we're not able to do that this year. All right, but that's the main thing that you guys need to kind of know, the difference between an aromatic and a cyclic aliphatic compound, okay? So as far as today, what I want you guys to do is to make sure that you go onto Google Classroom and complete section 18A questions. I've already posted that, but in case I haven't, you can send an email or whatever, and just make sure that I have done that. And if you're having issues, please reach out and let me know. All right. Enjoy. This is just the introduction to organic chemistry. It's a really fantastic chapter. I hope that you guys will enjoy it. And we're almost there, guys. We're almost there. All right. Y'all have a good day.